Odion Ighalo making the move to Manchester United on loan from the Chinese Super League. That was confirmed late on in the day. Craig, I want to start with you. What do you make of this?
Well, he's got this. Another little nugget. He's got the same agent as Josh King, who they were also.
Oh, okay, even from Bournemouth.
Yeah, so kind of not a lot of thinking out the box, I suppose you'd say. But look, I saw him play quite a bit for Watford. Did a decent job for them. But this is Man United we're talking about now. It's a loan deal to the end of the season, we believe, with no option to buy. I get all that. I get that they need to get a player in. However, when you go from one of the best talents in European football in Erling Haaland to Edison Cavani, one of the best talents of the last decade, to Josh King at Bournemouth, and now to Ighalo playing in China, Romelu Lukaku must be sitting with his feet up in Milan, chuckling away like never before. Because he might score some goals, and that'll be what he's brought in for, clearly. He might get some goals for them. But, however, it's Man United we're talking about. Somebody who's previously been out and got Henrik Larsson in January. But good grief.
They've got to get him fit first. He hasn't played since December the 1st. In the league season, he scored 3 goals, 2 of them penalties. He wasn't exactly tearing it up.
It's just desperation. Listen, they should have signed this guy 4 years ago when he was flying in 15, 16. And they must have forgotten that his last season at Watford was horrendous. He actually wasn't playing because he looked like he'd forgotten where the back of the net was or where the goal was. So, I don't even know. I mean, why have they signed him? I just don't understand why they've signed him. Is he actually going to start up front for Manchester United? A guy who's, even though he's only 30, looks like he's done.
Injury to Rashford, hasn't it? It's just triggered this kind of desperate move. Which is exactly what it is, Shaq.
I think you're being nice calling it desperate. It's just incredible.
It is a desperate move, and one that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And at the same time, I think maybe it's almost more damaging to Manchester United and their prospects in that all of a sudden you start to believe this is the club that Manchester United are. This is where they shop. And if I'm a Haaland, is that the club I want to be going to?
Yeah. Gab, it smacks of desperation. It's a word we've used a lot, obviously, but it does, doesn't it?
All right. You want me to be contrarian?
No.
I'll be contrarian. No. I mean, look, it's easy to go and pile on at this stage, but Manchester United made a decision in the summer. We were all critical, or certainly I was. I thought they left themselves short-handed going into the season with Rashford, Greenwood, and Martial, and nobody else. Then obviously Rashford gets injured. They have to bring in another body. And if you're going to bring in another body, you either go for Haaland, and maybe they could have done better. In fact, they probably could have done better with Haaland. But once you don't get Haaland, who would have been somebody young and for the future, you kind of have to be consistent and say, all right, we just need somebody, a warm body, to fill in for Marcus Rashford, and then Rashford comes back. And this is in keeping with what their strategy's really been since the end of last summer. And this is, and by the way, Ighalo had a tough start to the season. He was the top scorer at the Africa Cup of Nations. He did score 21 goals. I think he was the top scorer or thereabouts in the Chinese league the year before, albeit on a team that got relegated. So, it's not like...
But he hasn't played since December 1st, Gav. You talk about a warm body to come in to fill that gap before Rashford obviously gets fit. But you've got to get this warm body up to speed first.
Oh, no, I agree. Listen, it's far from ideal. I mean, given the situation in China, you had a whole bunch of people who made the point to their Chinese clubs, guys, you don't know when the league's going to start again, so here's a whole chance to get guys, to get wages off the books on a short-term basis, and they've been trying. I mean, Cedric Bakambu is another one who supposedly tried to set him up at Barcelona. That didn't work out. So, look, this is what they went for in the end. I personally don't think Josh King would have been a great signing either. They were talking absurd amounts of money for that as well. I think you dodged a bullet there. See how things work out. If Ighalo works out, even though there's some confusion about whether or not there is the option to buy, I'm sure Ighalo could just say, I'm not going back to China, I'm a United fan, and then United can work out a deal if they like him. Is this ideal? No. But let's not forget where we started and what the club's policy has been since the summer, which is do things on the cheap, get the big names out, and try to rebuild along this way and show faith in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I think it's the wrong policy, but I think it'd be even worse to go and just change horses in midstream for a guy you don't really want. Once you can't get Haaland, then go with this dude.
The Chinese Super League gets suspended, of course, because of the coronavirus. Hence, as Gab said, they're looking to get a lot of players over here. I just don't get how you go from Haaland to this without nothing in the middle. No one else. Nothing else that United could have done.
Yeah, I mean, it's smart. Look, Man United are still chasing the top four, right? It's viable.
Yeah.
They're in the FA Cup still. They are in the Europa League still. They've got quite a bit to fight for, as bad as they've been. When you go out and another point on this buy thing, who gives a damn about a buyback? He's 30 years old, right? That goes against the grain of what they're going to do anyway. So they ain't buying him at the end of the year, right? Otherwise, they're just telling more porcupines about what their strategy is. But I go back to the point, it's Man United we're talking about. At what point did Solskjaer or anybody at that club say, right, get to China now and we need a player? There has to be a book, there has to be a computer, there has to be, a computer full of names and standbys and A's and B's and D's and C's and choices. It's simple.
I was listening to you guys the other day at the start of the week, and it was pretty much, you were talking about Barcelona, how there's no plan, there's no organisation.
Well, that was
who's doing what, who's doing this, who's doing that.
These Muppets.
Well, it's arguably the two biggest clubs on the planet are in a complete and utter shambles. How is this possible?
Well,
how is it possible that they don't think beyond the end of their nose?
Quickly, Gab.
Stevie, sorry. If we're going to rank shambolism, if that's a word, we've been critical of Barcelona, but they're 3 points off the top of the table. They've won the last 2 league titles, and they're still in with a shot to win the Champions League. And they have Messi, and they have Ter Stegen. And they don't have guys like Pogba, McTominay, and Rashford on long-term injuries.
I'll go with Messi.
I appreciate where you're going with this, and I appreciate the lack of clarity. But, Barcelona are here right now. United are down here.
Good job you went on the other day then, wasn't it?
Appreciates the lucky clarity.
Good job.
Thanks for that, Gab.
What are you going to do, Shaq? What are United going to do? Like, if I'm a United fan, I'd be so desperate.
Listen, I don't know. There are a number of things, and you can be critical of United for, and we have been. But the one thing that certainly during his time as manager of Manchester United, Sir Alex Ferguson set up was scouting networks, contacts the world over. This is a club that's supposed to know what they're doing. Regardless who you put on the sidelines and what they do with what's happening on the field, even if you just keep that separate. United are a club that knows how deep your squad should be if you're competing on how many of the fronts. They're a club that have better contacts the world over in terms of identifying and acquiring talent. Now, to see the football side be as shambolic as it is, I don't know why that has translated or should translate to what you're seeing in terms of their activity or poor activity in the transfer market. And that is as big a concern as what's going on the field, because maybe you can fix what's going on the field with the right manager.
And this takes us all the way back to Solskjaer, and we talked about this a lot, in the fact that he doesn't have the appeal if you're a player and Solskjaer calls you up to try and persuade you to go to United as a Pochettino, as a Mourinho, as a Guardiola, as a Klopp, as a Ancelotti, whoever you want to put in that category. And that's another issue, another mark against him as to why on earth they stuck by him. It doesn't make any sense.
So there's several barriers, I think, at United at the moment. Money not been one of them, but there's the gravitas of where they're playing, i.e. they're not in the Champions League at the moment. They're out there in the Europa League, which is where they've been in it. But they were in the Champions League last year, weren't they? But they've been flitting between both recently. They've been nowhere near in title races. It's been a struggle to get in the top 4. And there's no Ferguson there anymore to entice players away from somebody who was maybe offering a little bit more money, like a Van Persie or a Berbatov going to Man City. And, Ferguson been able to convince players to come to United because they were a great side and they were going to win things, and this player was going to be the icing on the cake. He could generally, along with David Gill, it has to be said, deliver that. There are barriers at United at the moment for players coming in, and it's not easy for them to get over. But one of those barriers is the Champions League, and that's what I go back to. With Chelsea having a bit of a, more difficult time lately, with Tottenham being inconsistent, there is an outside chance for United. Hence, you have to go and bring in quality players to try and get you there. Now, he might do the business, Ighalo, he might, but if he doesn't, they'll get killed. But you know what? I kind of think they don't care if the fans got on the back or not.
I tell you what, it's good that Ighalo signed, though, because let's take a look at the other notable transfers. I'm not quite sure how we talk about these at any sort of length. There you go. Chan, obviously, to Dortmund. Trincao has gone to Barcelona. The youngster, he'll go in July. Suarez, meanwhile, on loan at Arsenal. Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.